So obviously we're talking about own your leadership abilities. Tip number 1 is your PEMS, your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And when you can see those and acknowledge those, you just go, okay, now Moira's a 2, I'm a 3, that's it, literally done. And then you can accept it or not, but then you can actually just sit with it. So tip number 1 is your PEMS. If everyone can
check in.
Yeah, check in. And no, it's obviously going to change from your food, your sleep, your mood, the clothes you're wearing, the Pac-Man, which is the outside voices coming into your head. And when I say the outside voices, that's other people having an opinion on you or no opinion on you that you think.
Debz is a stressologist. She will stretch your mindset to think bigger than you've ever thought before, with follow-through techniques that are realistic and achievable to blow any fear out of your mind. Moira is a mindset cultivator. She will help you align your personal trinity of self-trust, inner awareness, and self-confidence so that you discover and share your unique gifts and purpose. Together, their goal with these conversations is to share how our inclinations do not always work in our best interest and to provide the knowledge to leverage the gifts that already exist within each one of us. Their desire is to help you learn how to access the habits and behaviors that will lead to positive change and your best quality of life. Welcome to your deliciously motivated mindset.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us here today on our deliciously motivated mindset conversation with Moira and Debz. Actually, it goes Debz and Moira, doesn't it?
It goes Debz and Moira, yes.
Yeah, that's it. Debz being me and Moira being
me.
Yeah. That's it. Her. Oh, today, own your leadership abilities. Well, I clearly led that one, didn't I? Let's just own that. I clearly took control of our introduction fully 100%, and people listening going, yeah, she's such a leader. Yep, that's me. So, deliciously motivated mindset conversation. Let's crack on. Thanks for joining us. Clearly, obviously, Moira, but thanks for joining us, listeners, because the leadership abilities are an interesting one for us, and it's something that we can swing high, low, left or right. But
or believe we don't have them. That's the key piece here too.
Oh yeah, and that one there. But one of the amazing things about owning your leadership abilities is tip 1 is do a check-in. And this is a check-in that we do every podcast, and it's a check-in on our PEMS, which is our physical, emotional, mindset, and spiritual. And this is where we check in where we are emotionally, basically, all of those 4 things. And from a 0 to 10, a 10 being crazy, chaotic, discombobulated is Moira's favorite word.
Yep.
And it comes out often for me too. A 10 being that, a 5 being not so bad, I've got a lot going on and I'm feeling a little bit of this and I'm feeling a little bit of that. And then a 0, of course, is a 0 for zen, bliss, peace,
calm, peace,
neutrality.
Present. Yep. All that.
Where you've got no chaos, nothing to worry about in the past, future. You're just sitting, breathing in the moment. And that's an amazing place to be. The 10 is an amazing place to be because it means there's change. A 0 is you're going to go back. That's the only thing from being at a 0. But you're actually not worried about it, because if you're thinking you're at a 0 and you're going to go back and you're worried about going back, then actually you're more like a 1. You're not at a 0. So that's a great tip for where we're at. So we start with ours, where we're at. We then do a halfway check-in, and then we do an end result check-in. So let's just go to you, Moira. Where are you in this with the title, where you are emotionally, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually?
So I was dithering about this because I was about to write it down and then I was in my head. And so I'm a 2. I'm a 2.
You're a 2? Okay.
Yeah, I was like, I'm a 1, 1.5. I'm a 2. No. And just like what you said, is that if you're sitting at a 0 and you start going, oh, but maybe it's this, then you're not really at 0. So
and that's it. When your mind starts taking off. So I'm going to say I'm a 3 purely because of your leadership abilities and how I introduced myself. The words I said when Moira hit record, I would have said a 2, but prior to that, there was a little bit of discombobulation in that 1 minute. So I'm a 3. That's
you
how we
go.
go.
That's how we do it.
And that's as simple. Well, that's as simple. I'd like to think it's simple. That's literally how simple it is. You just choose a number and you move on. And it just allows you to look at where you are throughout your day. So obviously we're talking about own your leadership abilities. Tip number 1 is your PEMS, your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And when you can see those and acknowledge those, you just go, okay, now Moira's a 2, I'm a 3. That's it, literally done. And then you can accept it or not, but then you can actually just sit with it. So tip number 1 is your PEMS. If everyone can
check in.
Check in. And no, it's obviously going to change from your food, your sleep, your mood, the clothes you're wearing, the Pac-Man, which is the outside voices coming into your head. And when I say the outside voices, that's other people having an opinion on you or no opinion on you that you think. So grab your note-taking device, pen, paper, whatever you want to do, stylus, because we're going to crack on with that. So Moira, what's number 2 that you would have of own your leadership abilities, your tip?
So my next tip, and I kind of alluded to this in the setting up for this conversation, is that I often have conversations with people who do not believe they have any leadership abilities. So my tip is to acknowledge that you are, and I've got 3 underlines underneath are, a leader. You are a leader in, the example that comes to my mind is, think about when you're in a grocery store and you smile at someone and they smile back at you. You're being a leader right there. You're being a leader of uplifting energy. So this is such an important part, is it's so important to acknowledge and not get into your crazy making thinking of like, I'm not a leader, I have to follow somebody else's. No, it's about following the rhythm and the intuitive guidance that's already in existence within you, and shining your light. And that's why I said it could be as simple as just smiling at somebody in traffic or in a grocery store. That's being a leader, right?
Well, it's taking, maybe what is a leader?
Okay.
Maybe what is a leader? Because I agree with everything you just said. And often we do things and we don't even know we do it. Like so when I say this, so what is a leader? A leader to me is someone who leaves an impact. Would you say that? Yeah. So what is a leader? An impact, positive or negative?
That's true. But also a way shower.
What do you
right?
What's a way shower?
A way shower. Showing the
Never
way.
heard of that.
So like showing the
it's
way
her
to
accent.
do it. Well, it's my accent. Oops, we've tripped up with my accent. OMG.
Didn't understand what you're talking about. Yes.
But in my example about just smiling at someone, you are being a way shower, saying I show you the way, is that it feels good when you smile. Right?
Yes. So yeah, totally. Well, that's walking your talk, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
If you're
and
gonna
that's
do that.
a huge part of leadership, is walking your talk.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
And and so well, that's actually something that really peeves me off, is people who say this, do this, and this, and you're like, oh, and what did you do? How did you go with that exercise in your business? They're like, oh, I haven't done it for years. I'm like, okay, so
And
it
don't
works
tell
for
me.
you.
Don't tell
10
me.
years ago. Yeah. So a leader is somebody who can listen,
Definitely.
but also listen, give feedback, hold energy, hold space, give an opinion. So someone who can listen, strategy. Wow, actually, sometimes you don't have any strategy as a leader. Sometimes you just sit.
No, because sometimes you need to be open to being shown or seeing something like so if you, as a leader, you may realize there's this issue that needs to be overcome or dealt with. And a leader, to me, a leader is power with rather than power over. And what I mean by that is if you're in an environment where you need a solution or you need a strategy or a plan of action, that put it out to your people. Put it out and say, hey, we have this, and I have a somewhat of an idea of how we can work. What would you do in this situation or this environment, right? So to me, a leader is always.
So would you say seeing people as equals? Would you say that would be it, or
equal in, yes, but not the same, right? So it's like everybody is empowered to have a voice. And also knowing, and that's what we're talking about here, and that was my last tip, is that every one of us is a leader in our own realm, or our own expertise, our own talent, our own gifts, right?
And find your genius, and that's it. Find your glitter.
Yes.
What you do really easily, and that's it. That's your. You're right, because we compare that. I guess that's the other one, going to another tip, but I want to go back to those traits of a leader is comparisons, because I'm going to come back to that comparisons, because that's the stuff that makes you fall off the ladder when you go, oh, that mum turns up to school drop off looking amazing. And it's like, well, that mum's been up since 3 a.m. or whatever. So she's doing her thing or whatever. So good. I just want to go back to those traits of a leader, because I think they're, when we see now these are just our perceptions of what a leader looks like.
Mm-hmm. And there's lots more. These are just what we riffed on now,
just right now,
like right this minute.
Yeah, if I wrote a list of them, they would be different. And I think that and I'm gonna say not afraid of a challenge,
yes, but
also afraid of a challenge but takes action on it.
Mm-hmm.
Has a little bit of fear of a challenge, because when I say not afraid of a challenge, but you still want to have a little bit of fear, because sometimes that fear is the one that actually makes you reassess and check in and go, is this really
sharp,
me?
Doesn't it? Keeps you sharp, and keeps you aware, keeps you,
but actually doesn't sit stagnant for too long.
Yes.
Yeah.
Open to challenges is what I would say there.
Okay, yeah. And taking action.
And taking action, definitely. I put that one there too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think also a leader, to me, just continuing on these ideas of what traits or what is a leader, is a leader is a can-do type of person rather than a can't do it. Right. So it's so solution focused, uplifting and validating that everything's possible. Right.
Yeah, but also not running from stuff, but actually looking at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
So actually, would you say, looking at the big picture, and then the word trust comes in?
I knew that was going to come up, because absolutely, that's the
trust in yourself, trust in others, trust in the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm. And trust in that something that I've talked about before on previous episodes, when we've kind of danced around conversations about trust in other episodes. Trust, I've always said trust is an inside job, but the other key piece, and I think this is a really important part about leadership ability, is that you may have a situation that needs to be dealt with, and your thinking process doesn't come up with a solution or a strategy, but that if I keep taking action steps on what I can do right now, I trust that the right direction or right culmination of options and opportunities will all coalesce at the right time, right? So it's about co-creating. It's
But
like
that's how easy it can be. Like, you don't have to go, oh, what do I need to do? Like, you just trust. You don't have to spend hours and hours and hours on this. Like, you can just go, I trust this is going to work. That's
absolutely.
it.
And then you let go of the chatter. Because this is what I was just going to finish. My thought was that when we are really claiming our leadership abilities, we're also understanding and acknowledging that we are co-creating with others around us, whether it's with our clients or our students or our peers, but also with the universe. And so it's then saying, I trust in what is it I'm called upon to do in this moment, and then the next step and the next step, right? So I don't have to see the full strategy, but I can also tap into, how does this make me feel? I was talking about that this morning. You know, that one of my favorite questions. How does this make me feel? Well, if it makes me feel like I'm in alignment or I'm being authentic, then that's all I need to know. And then I trust. Next step, right?
Yeah, and that's it. So it's fearful of not doing the work. Like, it's like, so seeing opportunities over chaos.
And that's what I was saying about the can do as opposed to the can't do. Chaos exists, discombobulation and chaos exists.
Well, and that's it, I guess, and I say, when you have that chaos, celebrate, because it's got something to work on. At the start I talked about being a zero, and I said, if you're a zero, that's great to be, but the only way you can go forward in life is to go back when you're at a zero.
But also,
nobody can be a zero 24/7, and you don't actually want to be a zero 24/7 because you're missing opportunities.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, because how would you know you were at a zero if that's all that existed? That'd be so vanilla and so blah, because you have no contrast to say, oh, wow, this feels so great. If you hadn't been in an experience of a 10, then how would you know how calming and soothing and good, juicy it feels to just sit at a 0? And knowing, and it just, that helps appreciate more. Oh, look, there's another tip. Leadership is about appreciating what you can do, what you do have, what is going right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say that that's a really important part around leadership? Appreciate what is.
Yeah, and I said briefly before about comparisons. I think that's just going to take us into that tip, comparisons, because comparisons is it's a downhill spiral. It's literally I don't even know how to word it politely. It's pretty when you're comparing, like, there's a level, like, yes, you can look at your competition, but in reality, they're not your competition. Yes, I presented a workshop to someone, and we laughed and talked, and I said, you could take this workbook and you can present it to anyone, but like, I had 7 people on the call. All 7 people would have presented it very differently. Even if the words are there, they all would have said it their own spin. So, and that's what keeps me unique, is my way. That's what keeps Moira unique, her way. So those comparisons, you can definitely look at people and go, oh, that's interesting, they're doing that. I might look at trying to do that in my business or not. But just be aware that when you're on that comparison train, it can derail you.
Yes. So something I this morning I was doing some research. I'm a big person for collecting.
Oh my God. So
inspirational quotes.
She didn't emphasize the word big. She's a big person on that. Not big person, but she's a big person on researching all those things.
Oh yes, all the time. Can't help it.
How often do I actually say to her, I go, have you heard about this? And she's like, yes. Or,
I know.
What about
we
this?
We just had a funny example before we hit record here. She's like, have you heard of this? I was like, oh yeah, I used to be in that group.
I know. And I'm like, of course, I don't even know why I asked now. How long ago were you in this? When did you hear about this? Is actually probably how it would be wise for me to frame those things. But yeah.
Well, we get a giggle. But no, I was doing some research to get inspirational quotes, and I do that every week for my newsletter, actually. But this one really came up for this thing about comparison. And this quote is by Queen Latifah. And she said, look at people for an example, but make sure to do things your way. Surround yourself with positive people. Isn't that beautiful?
That's exactly it. Yeah.
And that is exact. A leader will look at other people for an example. It's like, oh, how are you doing that? How are you putting that together? That product or that process or that workshop or those slide decks, whatever it is. But then you go and you put your own stamp on it. Well, I'm gonna make everything purple, of course, right?
Yeah, and I'll make mine red with gold. I think, well, that's exactly it, because they say one size fits all. Here's a top, one size fits all.
Yeah. No. One size fits all means that one person's going to drown in it and swim in it, and somebody else is going to split all the seams still.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and then there's going to be the perfect medium in the middle. Yeah. One size fits all is just a crock of yeah. And so I guess that's that comparisons too.
Okay, there you go. There's your leadership.
Yeah, I do. I laugh at that. People go, one size fits all. I'm like, no, my partner's short.
Yeah.
I'm tall. Like, no, one size does not fit all. One's going to have the trouser leg taken up, and one is going to have them probably
added on to.
No, yeah, lengthened. Yeah, yeah. But I do think that's comparison is the stuff that immobilizes us.
Definitely. Especially if you add into that the propensity to think it has to be perfect. So if if you're comparing yourself to somebody else and you go, oh, I can't release this product or launch this book or this course or this thing until it looks just as good as that person or that one that you've compared yourself to.
When Moira's talking, I'm looking at her blankly going, and it's not that I'm looking at you blankly, I'm going, am I doing that with my website stuff right now?
The ongoing saga of your website.
It's actually live, just for the record, it's actually live, but it'll do in the meantime. That perfection. One of the other tips about owning your leadership ability is celebration, appreciation, and gratitude. And I think this is important, because if you're not celebrating your life or appreciating your life or having gratitude, and they're just worded differently, like celebrate you've got something to work on when challenges come in or perceived challenges, or celebrate that your life, that everything's going amazing, like celebrate. But appreciate and have gratitude. Appreciation and gratitude is incredibly important for your soul, for your heart, for yourself, let alone those around you, because no one wants to have a grumpy person around them, but also for yourself. You're not healing your insides. But if you have appreciation and gratitude, you're just you're living in a bubble. No, you're not living in a bubble. You're living in a much nicer energetic space.
Well, you are. But the thing is that it's our thoughts that creates the energy that we're sitting in, our thoughts and our emotions. So if I'm sitting there saying, oh, this sucks and this is terrible and this always goes wrong and I can't get anything right,
blame, shame,
then I'm going to just keep, because we have this confirmation bias thing happening too. We all do. So if I go around with that kind of process, then that's all I'm going to see, and I'm going to attract lots of examples and confirmations to say, yeah, you're right. It does suck. It is wrong. Everything's going to go to hell in a handbasket. Those types of things.
And when it goes to that level, it goes on it's a fast train.
It is. But likewise, if you have I've got this, everything's going beautifully in my favor. I was born under a lucky star. I'm a powerful creator being. I can deal with whatever discombobulation comes up or shows up. Then that's your energy, and you're going to have confirmation bias on that one too, right?
It's a much more pleasant way to live life.
P.S. That's exactly how I live my life anyway.
And that's why we do what we do, because that's what we're teaching people, or educating people, or maybe not teaching, educating, sharing with people.
Yes,
but it's a lot bloody easier. Deborah's wording.
Deborah's wording. It is so much easier. But here's the other thing too, is that I think that we can all relate to being in situations of turmoil, discombobulation, as you know, that's my favorite word. One of them.
Yeah.
But if I want to see change, or I want to see soothing or calming energies, then I need to do it on myself first. Because my internal landscape is the microcosm of what I see outside of me. And that to me is such a key piece of owning your leadership abilities, is if I see something outside of me, it's kind of like, and to your point too, is like, oh, there's a gift. Thanks. I need to investigate. I need to check into that within myself. Right?
Well, that's a level of honesty, isn't it? You know, I talked about walking your talk. That's a level of honesty, actually going, this is triggering me. What am I going to do about it?
Yeah.
Oh, I love this. This is beautiful. That, like, actually, yeah, taking ownership. Yeah.
Taking ownership and realizing, okay, this is just I'm just visiting this. Something that I've said many times. Yeah, I'm just visiting it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So something that I really think is an important piece is, it's been talked about by many different spiritual teachers and gurus about the I am, the power of the I am statement. And the thing about it is that whatever comes directly after I am magnifies. It expands. So if I say I am angry, for instance, then I'm going to create way more of that. That may actually be the truth in that moment, but I'm experiencing it, because that's why I'm saying I'm just visiting it. I'm coming through, I'm having this experience, and I'm continuing to move. So that's a leadership tip that I would really encourage people to take on, is watch your languaging, and particularly when you're saying, I am this, I am that, I am not this. And because there's another piece too, is if I say, I am not this, then my inner dialogue only hears what I've just said I'm not. It doesn't hear the word not. If I say to you, you are not going to think about a pink elephant, what just happened?
Yeah. I actually went, they are, aren't they?
Dang it. I wasn't thinking about pink elephants until you did that.
Damn, now I'm going to go, why is that elephant that color? I thought they were pink. Yeah. So, I think that's important. And just adding to that is also because there's the internal and then there's the external.
Well, it all starts internally.
Yeah.
Right?
And who you're talking to as well. And I think own your leadership abilities. You know, one of the other things is your tribe. And as much as I don't really like the word tribe, but it's who do you have around you? Who are those people who call you on your stuff but don't deflate you? And what are the things you're filling your voice and your head and your energy with? Clearly everybody's listening to us, so we're like, you're enjoying our tribe.
There you go.
But who are you around that's uplifting you and taking you out of that 10 close to that 0? Who are those people? And you don't have to be, the other thing of that is, you don't have to be the leader of that tribe at any time, because you're all equal, you know, when we talk about own your leadership abilities.
Right.
A quick wee message before we get back to this episode. You can get access to a special gift Moira and Debz have put together for you. Go to deliciouslymotivatedmindset.com/gift. When you sign up, you'll receive instant access to an inner peace kit and the 30 Days of Wisdom program, both of which is intended to help you feel deliciously motivated right away. Go to deliciouslymotivatedmindset.com/gift.
It's interesting because it's like, we're not setting up a hierarchy when we're talking about these leadership abilities. We're actually recognizing
I'd like to. Back in the day, I'd like to. I thought that was the only way to do it, but you know, I'm understanding it's not. Okay.
But that's why I did say this one before too, and for myself, I am very much a power with not a power over. And I think that is true leadership abilities is always going to be power with, and acknowledging, there's things that I can do better than anybody else I know. But I also know that there's things that other people I know can do way better than I can. And so it's about having that honest, authentic realization that, yep, there's things that I'm really good at. There's things Deb's really good at. And that we complement one another, right? So it doesn't mean that one's better than the other, but it means that we have our own set of skills and gifts and aptitudes, right?
Well, does that go back to, because I appreciate your skill, clearly, because I'm collaborating with you. I mean, I could have done this podcast on my own, and Moira could have, but we collaborated because we got along and we knew that we had the same intention with the same how would you put this? Not intention, but we were going to word them differently.
Yeah. And so many times that when we have these conversations, we are saying very similar things, but we're using our own verbiage, our own way. It's like we were saying about that comparison piece, about putting your own stamp on it. We have a uniqueness, each of us, that people will never listen to me speaking and think that it was you speaking, and vice versa.
Well, we know that is because she's got the accent.
Because I have the accent.
I don't. That's the one.
But no, because here's the other piece, and I've referenced that question of how do I feel about myself here. So how do I feel about myself when I'm sitting having conversations with Deb? I feel like I am me. I feel authentic. I feel present. I feel uplifted.
Natural.
I feel natural. Absolutely.
Not false.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so if there was an environment where I feel, my answer is, I feel a bit on edge. I feel a wee bit on guard. I have to watch what I say. I can't just, then there's a red flag for me, right? To say this might not be the best, place.
I even do that around you. I know you. Yeah, it's like, speak. And there's Deborah having her opinion again. And there's Deborah saying it her way. Like, yes. And that's the right people. Yes. The right people. But also, if I thought, even though I have a moral judgment on certain things, if I thought Moira was out of line, in my opinion, I would address that with her, because I would want to unpack, how did you come to that conclusion of that thought?
Absolutely.
And I think, and that's a leader that I'm not going to get offended by Moira's words, but I'm also curious. So it's that curiosity. It's that curious to go, I don't understand how you can think like that.
Yeah.
Or explain. And I guess that's that whole Trump and Biden. Now, I'm a New Zealander, so I don't, and I say that very loosely, and Moira's got her eyes down looking at, she's actually writing, so I can't, I'm not put my eyes down now. But this is the stuff that can, we have Labour and National in New Zealand. And if I said to someone, who are you voting for? It can be a whole different conversation. The Trump and Biden, from what I can see, is similar, but it's going to cause a conversation that can emotionally hit people. And I believe to own your leadership abilities is to be able to listen to the other person's opinion and not get rattled by it, or if you get rattled by it, do something about it, but actually listen, because they have their opinion from their life stories that come about. Mm-hmm. And so that leadership and that tribe as those people is, don't just have all the people who want you to vote for Biden or all the people around you who want to vote for Trump. Actually be open to other people's opinions.
And so,
or in New Zealand, National Labour and Greens and all the other millions of parties we've got.
Political parties.
Not really that many millions, but yeah. Does that make sense?
Well, it does.
Don't run from them.
Yes. No, and I completely agree. What I had written down as you were framing that up, because I'm in Canada, so I don't get immersed in any of that. I keep
forgetting you're in Canada. That's right.
I don't get into that. But you know what? Even if I was in the States, I still wouldn't get into it. Because what I was writing down here is that I think when we're owning our leadership abilities, and I think a key piece of that is understanding that not all people think the same. In fact,
Oh, yeah, that's
I
actually a great
honor
one.
that not all people think the same. And so I think it's extremely important that if you have an agenda, it's time to check it. Time to sort of go, wait. You know how you were talking about having your tribe can only be positive people. Well, it's nice, but it's also good to have some people who challenge you, who don't think the same way as you. And those, you're not going to be completely vulnerable and let them know all aspects of you, particularly if people are going to then start saying, oh, well, this is how you have to talk, or this is how you have to vote, or this is what you have to think. It's like, no. But likewise, don't you go into a conversation like that either. You know, if somebody says, oh, I'm going to do this. Okay, that's your choice. That's an interesting choice. That's it. Let it go.
Yeah, and you want those ones who open your awareness, not the ones who keep you plateau and skipping through life in the meadows. Like you want those ones to challenge you. Well, you can call it challenge or not, but to question you and make you think.
Make you to check in.
But not to burn you out. And I think that's the important thing, is to have those people who go, you know, so if you are a Biden supporter, you know, and you're not a Trump supporter, and you don't want those Trump people to constantly like, because that's going to burn you out. So just be aware of your energy, feel your energy, which takes us into, you know, own your leadership abilities. Is it's okay to say no. Look at your self-care. So self-care is incredibly important.
Exceptionally important.
So self-care is not selfish. That's it. That, like, self-care is not so own your leadership abilities is add self-care
to the top of your priority list. It has to be the top. That's not negotiable.
Yeah.
Because you know, we've talked in this conversation, we talked about walking your talk and being open to other people's opinions, and you can't do that if you're depleted.
If you're a 10 and someone's telling you what to do, literally you are a sheep, and someone's saying get yourself out of it. That's it. But if you're a 1 and someone's telling you the same stuff, you're going to react very differently to that.
Yeah. Like and so, but the thing is that when we put self-care at our top of our list, we're doing it in order to be of service to those that we work with. And we create our own level of resilience. So something, and this is something very, very big part of my own life, is that I need to do all of my own self-care before I ever look at any social media, or what have I got on the books today, what do I have, what's my schedule like. I can't look at any of that until I've attended to my physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being. And then that allows me to deal with any forms of chaos or discombobulation or changes to my schedule or things of that nature. So it's so important that I can't overstate enough the priority of that, why it's so important. Because then you get to authentically be you. You're not, you know, if you're feeling depleted, sometimes your reaction may be because you're depleted rather than it being based on what really is required or called upon by that situation or that request, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think about that, and I love that, what you're called upon, because lately, I mean, I used to, even a couple of weeks ago, I'll be up at 4 a.m. and I'd be on a call or I'd be in my office, and it was great. And this last week has been, I've struggled when that alarm goes off. I've struggled to get up, and it's been a 5 a.m. start for me in the office, and which other people are like, oh, that's insane, and 4 a.m. is insane. Yep, that's okay. But what it is because
I couldn't do that.
But what it is because my partner and I are doing something later at night. You know, we've got ourselves hooked into this blooming TV series, but we're not going to bed till 11:30, and so that's knocking me right out. And it was last night. It was 11:10. It's like, we've got to go to bed. I've got to go to bed. Like, I've got to get up in the morning, and I've got to get up in the morning. And that's my word. It's not I love to or I choose to, it's I've got to. And it's heavy. So that self-care. And it wasn't until this morning I went, oh, you're running that, because I'd literally been a walking zombie. I felt that. I felt that. And you know, that's at PEMS how we started our talk here.
Yeah.
You know, it's been out purely because of my sleep. And it throws me out. So usually at 4 o'clock I can get an hour done, which is 3 hours in the office when no one's online.
Right.
Like it's like done. And it's so empowering for myself, and it really works before I jump on my 5 a.m. call. But lately it's been like get out of bed 5 minutes before 5 and get on my video call where I'm partaking in something. So I'm showing up, but it's painful. It's been painful. And so this is part of my self-care, is that recognizing that it's not selfish. Actually, you know what? I love spending time with my partner, but I'm also prioritizing my sleep right now. So it's just those little things, and recognizing it and being okay, guilt-free.
Yeah. Accepting it.
Yeah.
Accepting and telling yourself the truth. That's an important part too. You just told yourself the truth. Good for you. Good for you. This has been a really good conversation. And so now
juicy.
It has been juicy. I like this a lot. Let's, if you hadn't, dear listeners, got your note-taking device calibrated, we encourage you to get that out so that because we're going to recap our tips to bring this one home, owning your leadership abilities. So why don't you kick us off? What was the first
PEMS.
PEMS check-in.
PEMS, and we're going to do our PEMS check-in at the end again.
Yeah.
So your PEMS is incredibly important, just to allow you to see, acknowledge, and go, oh, I know what that means.
Yeah.
Okay, I know what that means. That's it.
Yeah.
Done.
Just be there.
Move
That's
on.
it.
Yep. That's the one. Yeah.
Not get into a big story about it.
Yeah, totally. So PEMS, physical, emotional, mindset, and spiritual.
Mental and spiritual, yes. Or mindset, yes.
I've gone off the word mental. Something just challenged me this last week, and I'm like, I'm not saying the word mental.
Going a bit mental.
I don't. Well, we know that because I've been lacking of sleep. We've just admitted that one.
That must be it. The next tip that I had here, and this was something I said, you just mentioned acknowledge, but my tip was to acknowledge that you are a leader. Every one of us has our own unique gift, talent, purpose, way of being, and that's what we lead with. That's the purpose of our life, is to assess it, figure it out, and share it. And by that, we are all being the leaders that we intended to be, right?
Yeah, I'd love that. And it's as easy as going, oh yeah, I do that. Acknowledge you're a leader. Yeah, I'm really good at that.
Yes, exactly.
I can do that. But not put yourself into a spin. And then we talked about the traits and actions that a leader does. Now, these were just ad hoc. And if I actually sat down, I could probably list 50.
Oh, I'm sure you could.
At least. And Moira and I could. But these were just ones that we just came off the top of our head. And so one of the things, so we'll just do these one by one. I'll throw the first one out. Was somebody who has an impact. And an impact is positive or negative, but someone who leaves a mark out there. And that was when Moira was talking about smiling, just even smiling to somebody. Just smile, and you don't know what that person's going through at the end of the day. And I know I missed smiling to people, when 2020 was around and we'd have masks on, but you can just see people's eyes, and it was smiling with your eyes, not just with your mouth. So, and that's just leaving an impact with somebody or saying hello to someone.
The next one we talked about, and it came from that smiling one too, was being a way shower. That leadership, being a leader, is showing the way. That's the one that threw you off.
Yeah, so I was like, hang on, that's right. That was that accent
about?
that she had. I was like, what? What is she talking about? Showing. SHOW.
Way shower.
Yeah, that's it. Walking your talk.
Yes.
Don't tell people to do things if you're not doing it yourself. And don't tell people to do things if you've never done it yourself. And don't tell people to do things if you are in a 10 state.
Yes.
Yeah, give that talk back to yourself.
Definitely.
Walk your talk.
Definitely.
If you're in a pickle, what would you coach yourself on?
What would
Yeah.
you say to yourself if you had this issue?
Yeah.
That which actually it leads it
with
nicely
others?
into the next one that I wrote down here was that you're a good listener. So being a
Oh,
good
yeah.
listener actually means being a good listener to your own internal dialogue as well as what's going on around you, right?
Yeah. This is where I've got power with, not power over.
Yeah.
Oh, the power within and power to have you. Yeah, okay. And the listener is also knowing when to hold energy.
Yeah,
So it's not just
space.
listen and project. It's listen and just hold that energy. Yeah, hold space. Yeah.
Hold space.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've got open to challenges and then taking action on them.
Taking. Yeah. Yep.
Mm.
Yep. Good. I think that's a good recap of what we kind of just
Hang on, we've missed my favorite one, trust. Or is that actually a whole different thing?
I had that as a whole different point all by itself.
Okay, we can bring the one. Okay. So what's the next tip we then have?
Well, it's about trust in yourself, trust in the universe, trust in the others, and not being afraid of chaos or discombobulation. Just trusting I'm in the right place at the right time. I've got the tools. Even if I cannot see the best choice or the best decision right now, I know it's there, right? That's the epitome of trust to me. It's actually, if you think about it, that's actually having some faith too.
Well, it's a belief, isn't it?
It's a belief in I've got this. I might not be able to sit down and tell you all the steps that I'm taking, but I know I've got it.
So, and that's it. And it can be as simple as hand on heart. Just trust. But like it can be just, I've got this. Even if you have to say it to yourself 3 times, 5 times, 10 times, it's sinking in each time. You may not know it. Yeah. But it's sinking in. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
One of the tips I had was comparisons. And this is, and I love that Moira said later on in the piece, she said, not everyone thinks the same.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I know I talked about presenting a workshop, and all of us attendees, if we present it, we'd all do it differently, even if it's the exact same content. You can watch a movie with somebody and you can say, this is a scenario, and they go, I didn't get that. You're like, what?
Oh, I know. That happens all the time
with
me and my husband. Like, how did you get that?
Well, what amuses me the other night, I was talking to my partner and she said oh, what happened to so-and-so? And I'm like, who's that? And she's like, you know, that character that does this and this? I'm like, no. And she's like, that one. I went, oh, the blonde one, or the brunette one who always wears the red or has their hair to the, and my partner's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, what's their name? Oh, I didn't even know their name. And we've watched like a series, and we're in series 3 now. And I never knew the person's name. But I'm like, oh, they always had their hair tied to the side and a curly bun. I'm like, oh, that one. Like, I just don't. So that is somebody we are both into human behavior. We're both watching something, no recollection of the name, but I can tell you different scenarios of that person and the things they've done, whereas my partner can tell you the name and completely different scenarios. That is so not everyone thinks the same.
Not and because what
and
is
it's
it
okay.
that saying?
And it's okay.
Do you hear that saying that says we don't see things as they are, we see them as we are? I'm not sure who said that, but it's so true. We don't see things as they are, it's how we are. And so, because we're looking at it through our own lens, our own mindset, our own beliefs,
our own storybook
our
life.
own stories, our own pieces. Absolutely. Yes. So comparison's good to like that was that quote that I shared too. That it's good to look at other people, but then go do it your way. Right?
Yeah.
Such an important piece. The next one that I have down here is to appreciate what is. And that's when we added in about to celebrate, to appreciate, to have gratitude, to just know that everything's going in your favor, even if it feels like it's not sometimes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, totally. And I think that appreciation, you can think it's a false appreciation, but whenever you start appreciating things, even if you just do like a little bit, it's going to have a ripple effect, and it's going to have an impact on your mind, on your internals in your body, your physical. It's just going to change. It's going to change your PEMS.
Yep. You're going to see more and more things that you appreciate. You know, I've
100%.
Yep. What you
Yeah.
appreciate appreciates.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. And don't forget to celebrate that when you see things go on.
Mhm.
Celebrate. Yeah.
Definitely.
The one I've got here is taking ownership. And I loved when, take ownership of the situation you're in. Take ownership of the situation other people are in, if you've helped them or not helped them.
Mhm.
Well, whatever, just take ownership of everything around. So forget the blame game. And Moira mentioned, I'm just visiting this. And I
Yeah.
love that. I'm holidaying on this. And the holiday's not going to be very long. But I'm just visiting this. I'm just visiting this allows you to know that in an hour it could change, or 5 minutes it can change, or 1 minute. And that's a great one. I'm just visiting this, is to remind you about that PEMS that we talk about, because it's like where you were at the start of the call to where you were at the end of the call to where you were if you had food, where you haven't had food. But I'm just visiting this is a great one. So take ownership of the situation you're in, whether you like it or not. That's it.
Yeah. So that was when I was talking about the power of the I am statement, right? So if I'm just visiting this, I am experiencing this, or I am having this experience, as opposed to I am this, right? So we are moving through experiences. We're not like getting stuck and getting all attached to it. So,
and that was my next top tip, is in your self-talk. Yeah. And I love that. I am. It's just so easy. The stuff doesn't have to be complicated. That's going to throw you right out.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just doesn't.
Nope.
Yeah.
Definitely. The next tip I had written down here was about tribe. This is where you were talking about leadership. Leadership abilities are really well honed and become more aware of them when we see ourselves reflected in others. So having an uplifting and positive tribe around us, but also having tribe members that will kind of say, maybe just hold you accountable for something, or say really, you want, is that right for you? Or just, so not, you don't want everything being, oh yeah, you're great, you're this, you're that, because that's not really the truth anyways, right?
As much as we want it to be a little bit like that sometimes. But I think and that was what are you feeding your mind, and what are you feeding your mind with the people around you? I love that. I love the tribe, because it's incredibly important. I know in multi-level marketing companies they say, if you're having a bad day, talk to your upline, don't talk to your downline.
Right.
And that's exactly it, because when you talk down, you're just going to attract down. But when you talk up, you're going to attract up, and that's where the greatest shift's going to be, because the down is just going to keep you down.
Don't want to be down there.
And then the last one I have, are we on the last one?
We're getting there. I have two more here, but
okay.
You share what you've got as the last
self-care
one.
Is literally self-care. Self-care is not selfish. Saying no is not selfish. Self-care, it's important. Self-care. It's important to be a leader.
And I had said that it has to be priority number one. Top of your priority list is your self-care, and it can't be negotiable. It's you got to look at, and that helps you become resilient and ride the wave and be the beautiful, brilliant leader that you really are. The last one I did have was when I talked about releasing an agenda. You know how sometimes it's when we're talking about, people have to think this way, or I have to convince this person that this is the better way of doing something, or it's that if we do that, then we're not really allowing people to be who they are. So it's about understanding that not everybody thinks like you. We've already talked about that. Not everybody chooses like you, will go the same way as you. And so it's kind of just acknowledge and accept everybody's doing the best they can. They are in alignment with what's authentically right for them. And so not to feel like, oh, I have to go and convert these people, because that takes us into a whole different ballgame. That's not going to help us.
Yeah, totally. And see, these tips are so simple.
That's
Yeah,
what I love
so-
about these conversations, is they are simple, but I trust that they help you expand into it and realize we ain't telling you stuff that you don't know, dear listeners. So, dear listeners, this is us
Yeah.
getting ready to wrap up this conversation on owning your leadership abilities.
Yeah.
And we trust that this has resonated with you and helped you step into a feeling empowered and recognizing your own leadership abilities. So before we wrap this up, what I would invite you to do, we would love to continue this conversation with you. Come over onto the Facebook group and let us know, how much of a leader do you feel? Which tip resonated with you? Do you feel like there's more tips or more traits of leaders that we didn't cover? Let us know. We would love to start interacting more with these conversations. Also, we'd encourage you to share this podcast, share this episode, and keep the dialogue going with your friends and family and co-workers and business partners, etc. And let us know how it goes. So all that being said, at the beginning, we did do our PEMS check-in, our physical, emotional, mental, spiritual well-being, and potentially listeners, you checked in at the halfway point, and then now we're all going to check in and see where we are. So Deb, you were at a 3 and I was at a 2. Where are you now?
I am a 1 because from here I've been doing 2 lists. One list of our notes and the other list of things that need doing. So my day, if it wasn't crammed, has just added
Just
probably
got more.
another 4 hours of content to put in.
Oh dear.
So that just, I was like, oh, this feels beautiful. And then I looked at the list beside it and went, oh, okay. So that's why I'm a 1. I'm just giving you a reason for that. Actually, leaders don't have to explain.
No,
there
they
you go.
don't. They do
But
just own it.
clearly, I just did. That's why I'm a 1.
That's why you're a 1. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I'm actually at a 0.5. I often get to a 0, but there's just a little bit going for me that I'm like, okay, I'm at a 0.5. I don't have to explain it. You just told me that. I don't have to explain it.
She's at 0.5. I'm a 1.
Awesome conversation. Like I said, dear listeners, we'd love to have your feedback, and we'd love for you to continue this conversation with us on Facebook or directly. You can message me or Deb or both of us. We are here to help you step into the empowered version of you. And we trust these conversations help create that for you. So that's us signing off with another one of our deliciously motivated mindset conversations, podcast conversations. We wish you a beautiful week, and we'll be back again with you next week. Thank you, Deb.
Thank you.
Thanks, listeners. Bye.
Bye.